Ali set something up that, if carried out, would inevitably have freed us. But a process was put into effect to shut it down. And on this date, it was wrapped up and the whole shit was totally bankrupt. Africa Bambaataa set something up that, if carried out, would have inevitably freed us. But a process was put into effect and shut it down.
KGP Beats.
Yo, the time is wasting. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Yo, the time is wasting. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation.
I know it's a lot to digest, but that doesn't mean you should digress. Stay on the studies, knowledge is power. As man think it's always he, be a lot in man, G-O-D. Generator, operator, destroyer. Hold up, give it a chance before you throw in the towel and call it quits. Take time to think what the Prophet Drew Ali did. He bankrupted the U.S. so you could be free. Brought back Bey, Al-Day and Ali. He brought back civilization, found his mainframe. Not only in appearance but an abstract strain. Brought back the constitutional fold again. I know pigs got guns, just maintain. Put the guns down. Have you lost your brain? They got nukes, tanks and drone bomber planes. Yeah, black power, but RBG, a Moroccan flag colors. Can't you see? I know your sight is going, but you're not blind yet. It's all in your mind anyway, so don't mind threats. Life is too short. Not talking to rap pimp, calling himself nigga when that's a chimp. Cave dweller, hey fella, a monkey is who you think you are, you stupid junkie. High off ignorance and ignorance. From sheiks warning you of King Alfred plans. It's not about being in courts, but make them hear you. Declare your nationality, don't let them scare you.
Yo, the time is wasting. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Yo, the time is wasting. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Yo, the time is wasting. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Yo, the time is wasting. I use the.
And if you walk through a store with some fiat and they ain't gonna take it, then it doesn't matter whether you got it or not. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And you push that card in your ATM and it goes broke, it doesn't matter what you think. It's no different than you find a used Hershey wrapper in the street. $20 bill and that, do the same thing. It matters you wasting your time leaving to pick it up. That's what's getting ready to really come to for me, not because I said so.
So I'm trying to see this, it's funny you should say that, because the prophet says, when they trying to get the sound on,
Give me a second.
You can hear you, boss. It's coming to my wife's not doing that.
Everybody who's associating themselves now with the that's the stop.
This is where the Babylon story in the Bible,
right? That's the Babylon story. And they actually told that their stocks out of these banks now.
that's the T-bonds.
Yep, the T-bonds. So
Yes, that's what's called gold backwardation. That process is what's called gold backwardation. And what you see is that our people aren't even aware of what's going on. You know, we're aware of a lot of stuff. We're not even, it's affecting, it's going to affect us horribly. And the fact that our people aren't aware of it is testimony of the irresponsibility of the people who've had this information for 101 years and have not prepared these people, you know, for what's getting ready to hit them. By just people this stuff like we doing with Islami baloney thing to Noble Ali. And what he prepared you for, the people are clearly not prepared for, which is horribly irresponsible. So go ahead, brother. Make sure that we can hear you, brother. Inflation, artificially created.
Yes.
And inflation is a political methodology of robbing people without going directly in their pocket. It is called, in law, it is called hypothecation. This is where like somebody sells you a bond and this is, you know, this is back to proper education. Like our people, for the sake of this education, for the sake of this education, most of our youth, educate them that they run to the store with. And yet, this costs about 150 of them notes, yet this says $1. And this is costing about 150 of them same notes, because they have the mentality of boys and girls. They don't even know what money is. You understand? Because they've never experienced it. You comprehend? Yeah, it's silver. Oh, it's silver.
My son's on one last night.
Yeah. Now, you suppose every Moorish American should at least have a couple of these in their pocket. By principle, yeah, always the Trinity. Yeah, the Trinity. You know what I mean? And the deal of it is, the fact that we have to teach them is testimony that we haven't done our job. Do you comprehend? Because the world is moving on while we're sitting around playing it to not smoking more coffee. You know, because nature does not recognize personal station. If you're conscious and you haven't carried out the law, in the view of the law, you're just a Negro. You're expendable. Because color is an action, not a complexion. Color is a simulacrum. That's right. As distinguished from that which is real. You don't probably say you're not Negro, black, and colored. It has a meaning in law. If you practice colored things, you're going to pay the price for it. And the Moorish movement is, in its nature and design, constructed to make sure that our people are no longer categorized in the public status, in the culture status. And unfortunately, our people still think it's a complexion. And due to that fact, okay, and it's not, and as for myself, you know, I don't condemn them. I condemn the seller for not, you know, they knew that. That's why also Drawley says that every temple must have a school, and we must maintain a press. He says the press is the most powerful weapon in the hand of our group today. Without a press of our own, we'll never be able to shovel ourselves out from the lies that are heaped upon us by the day. He says the most powerful weapon to preserve the rights and the liberties of a strong, free people. That's why when the COINTELPRO came into the temples, first thing they did is got rid of the prophet's paper, which is why examples of the paper have to be in a frame like history to show you what the prophet actually set up, but also to show you where the sellout issue that's destroying us or that's injuring us is suffering across this country, because those papers are supposed to be in every temple. I mean, it's supposed to be like common knowledge, like it's not even supposed to be a second thought. Yet it is. And so we're going to pay the price also for the sellouts that we did not get out of them seats. And the people have let them be in them seats because they were being partial, friends, they knew that brand sheet and all that stuff, and they were selling out you and your babies. And we're all going to pay for it, but having not gotten rid of them.
Islam and two times, that's an excellent excerpt into what it was about, to say that's a charge on the people. The prophet also said. He said, I've seen the conditions of my people. Now, when he said he went to the south, you got to understand, he's the prophet. The south don't only mean the south where he went to actual south. He went to the actual south. He's seen the south in the people's mentality, also in North America. And two, he seen that they were hard-headed, like it's there for them, and they don't even want to get it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a twofold thing. You have to want this. You have to really want to know about yourself and get out there and seek it. Because we can give it to you. We can open up that book. But you got to go and see. You got to get up off your behind and go out there and seek it and learn it and know it and become it. And a lot of the people aren't. They just sit back to my word. How much? The prophet said, I'll give you everything you need to save the nation. Now, well, to save yourself, what do you want me to do next? Kill you?
Yeah, so lay the foundation for you.
You want me to kill you? obtain it for yourself.
And you know what's going to teach our people? It's one of the oldest teachers on the planet. And she is spelled P-A-I-N.
Islam. Islam.
Islam, Moors.
Islam.
Islam, welcome back to a great event. We got Grand Sheikh Taj Tarik Bey here. We also have Grand Sheikh Tudo L in Canaanland via Skype. So we just want to give Canaanland the honor, acknowledgement, the gratitude for doing their work. Islam, Moors?
Islam.
Islam. So we officially starting the Skype lecture with Canaanland now. Which is just face the camera, introduce.
Islam, Moors.
Islam.
Let's go ahead.
We send you greetings from Asbury Park with all the Moors in Asbury. Speak up, Moors, introduce yourselves.
Islam, boys, I'm Sheikh Shatik Al.
Bey.
Osman Bey.
Michael Bey. Nayo Bey.
And we got some Moors conscious. They're Yodas in here. We got Grand Masters in here. They send you silently their energy. Islam, Moors. This for gathering in Canada. Yes. Islam. Some of the things that we want to bring to your attention before we get deep into the lecture today. We'll let the Spirit of Truth take us where we need to be, even though we have some prepared information for you, as Grand Sheikh Cujo will present to you. Keep in mind the activities that are going on around the world with the nations of the earth going into what is called gold backwardation, where they're reclaiming their gold from the Jesuits' Federal Reserve order that was set up by Woodrow Wilson in 1913 as a countermeasure to Noble Drew Ali setting up the old Canaanite temple. So you got to pay attention to what's going on in the world, because the nations of the earth are now countering the Roman corporation pretending to be Americans. And logically, when you look at it realistically, they're backing up everything that Noble Drew Ali warned us all about, etc., including the necessity of the Moors of the Western Hemisphere to claim the nationality so that we would be capable of being descendable to our estate, which the United States Corporation has been de facto controlling under European occupational principles, TC. So it's important for all Moorish Americans to be cognizant of international law, as the corporate states being franchises of the United States Corporation are all operating on an international law venue, ETC. So logically, it's important for the Moors to become conscious of international law. The Special Committee of 24, Decolonization and Nationalization, distinguished from the Naturalization Act of 1870, created fraudulently to support the 14th Amendment courts, which was set up to slip editing, from which the corporate entity ens legis was created that the Europeans are using to steal the people's birthright under their bottomry instruments, i.e. the Social Security, birth certificate, marriage certificates, driver's license, all of these callable instruments that they're using, converting them into UST bonds and doing their human trafficking around the world. As you already know, the nations of the earth are disposing of the T-bonds as quickly as they can, while limiting their citizens' capacities to reach their throats and choke them. If there's any comments on that, we can bring that up before the Grand Chief brings up the subject matter for today. Because we were discussing that a little bit now with the Moors in Asbury Park in New Jersey Republic Territory, Checkyapi Territory under the corporate name of New Jersey. And also Grand Chief Nadir Bey brought up the subject of the brother from Egypt trying to claim the black status and being denied it by the United States Corporation. It's very interesting because that was a great opportunity for the Moors to see the issue of legal status in a court process, particularly in the modern times, because it certainly is redundantly on another level a reflection of the Dred Scott case, Ferguson versus Plessy, etc. Were you going to comment on that, brother? Because you usually do help us out for that stuff. Because it might be good.
Right now, we're doing this for
yeah, because that would be good. Because the issue of status is everything. And of course, Moors being properly taught about nationality and birthright know that status and estate are equals, and that the status must be clean in order for them to be descendable. And of course, that the corporate states have been using the false pretense that by our people claim to be Negroes, black, and colored, that they've abandoned their estate and therefore given them claim of right as trustees or forfeitors over the Moorish estate to foreclose on their estate and then assume abandoned jurisdiction over both the lands and their properties, etc. But I know we can all stand on the fact that when Moors declare their nationality, that false position cannot stand in law nor in international law. And though we've had the problems from grand governors right on down in the Moorish movement selling out to Woodrow Wilson and Herbert Hoover, that there's enough active Moors across the country and even in other countries who have been standing strong and honorable and with integrity, protecting the property and the movement and making sure that the people knew fundamental principles of constitutional law, which is the highest level of civics, to be assured that they were able and capable of lawfully and intelligently and competently protecting their lost estate, etc., so it will not be assumed to be abandoned under the misrepresentation by the colored and compromised representatives in the corporate United States Corporation, which has been dissolved since 1933, and while they've been pretending that they were operating legitimately as government when they know that they are mere administrative clerks of private corporate entities pretending to be government, while the grand governors of the Moorish Science Temple have submitted to them and have made secret agreements of 501c3 agreements with Lyndon Baines Johnson, Skull and Bones, compromising, so they thought, the Moorish movement. Well, as far as we can let them know that they may have compromised themselves, but they have not compromised the movement because it has taken root across the planet. And we were on the case. We're on the case on behalf of our people, presenting the proper argument for our people that they are indeed descendable, and we're going to make sure that they have the fundamental knowledge they need to secure their lost estate. And even though the United States Corporation is required by international law to have been teaching them government under international law, they have negated their position to use that as an excuse to claim that the people have abandoned. And of course, we don't have to discuss some of the grand governors who sold out to them. They're not even going to discuss these things because they're compromised. But we don't have to debate about them. We can make sure that our people have a knowledge of what's going on top of the fact that the international community is stepping up the charge of gold backwardation, so it doesn't matter if they're going to ignore these issues that the prophets set up before them. They can ignore them all they want to. They're going to find out they'll have no savings accounts. They will have no retirement accounts. Their 401ks will be 00010ks. They will be the ones that everything else that they think they got is going to be gone. And by circumstances of survival, they're going to have to start looking at this information, and they're going to study this stuff day and night, in which they had more hours to get this stuff together that they should have gotten together 60 to 70 years ago. We're getting ready to pay the dear price. Islam.
Canaanland has a question.
Yes.
They said, are there any things happening internationally that Moors need to be aware of?
Yes, what we're discussing right now, gold backwardation. As an example, they must be made aware that that since Robert McNamara went into the World Bank, you must know that the World Bank and the IMF, International Monetary Fund, are simply branches of the same institution, and that the United States Corporation has lost the power to arbitrarily set the position of the presidents and the major board members on the World Bank.
which you already know, is a depository for all of the nations, approximately 188 nations. It simply is a bank of the nations. And the nations of the earth have gotten together under the rule of decolonization, and of course, because the U.S. corporation have been robbing their gold, they've been demanding their gold back. And of course, the U.S. corporation having been stealing their gold and having been backing up the fraud stock market by stealing the gold of others, have even stolen the gold of even their allies, such as Germany. And when the German representatives came to New York and also to the Federal Reserve to see their gold, they told them they couldn't see their gold. And of course, that's an act of war. And for those who don't know, that the helicopters, German military helicopters, raised the embassies in Germany, the U.S. corporation embassies, and knocked their antennas down, and are no longer sharing what you would call intelligence information with them, and you can kind of understand that. That's called gold backwardation, which is being exposed by one of the major lawyers that used to work for the international IMF, and her name is Karen Hughes, and she's been exposing a lot of things as well as others. And it's interesting thing that a lot of the people are now listening or hearing things that she has been exposing that we've been telling them for over 30 years. It's interesting when the Europeans start telling them the truth, that they have a tendency to start listening when they start, thinking that we were just playing with them or either talking religious jargon with them when we're telling them real politics of the planet. However, if you have any fiat in the banks, realistically, it's suggested that you spend it while spendable. Because as of June the 1st, 2014, the House Joint Resolution will come into effect officially, and the banks will be confiscating everybody's funds. If you got anything in the strong boxes, they take it. If you got anything in the account, it's theirs. It's theirs anyway by their color law, FTC. And as many of you already know in Canaanland, it's kind of good that we're speaking to you, because many of you already know that many of the brothers and sisters who have visited Canaanland from the middle of the north, that many of the businesses in Canada have not accepted those U.S. dollars right across the board. I know many of you know that already, but you know also that a lot of people here are not aware of that. I'm making them aware of that, but a lot of them don't know about that because of the malfeasance of the press here, but you also know that the Jesuits own the press, the mainstream press, so they're not going to be afforded that information. However, the Grand Chiefs of the Royal Science Temple of America, being put in power to make law, have a responsibility to inform the people and the citizenry of these things, and that's what we're doing at this time. Islam.
Next question. They ask, is the U.S. Corp's trustees the same as Canada's, because we cannot find any information on Canada's incorporation?
The reason why you won't, because the incorporation of papers of Canada is right there in the state of Delaware. It's a U.S. corporation. They're all one. They're all belong to the Crown. Keep this in mind while you're asking that question. I'll give you a little bit more information and take notes. That you have a triad of activities that are enforcing what is known as the discovery doctrine of the Popes of Rome. That's emanating from the Spanish Inquisition under Pope Urban and under Pope Innocent III. And the Spanish Inquisition is the Inquisition against the Moors and Yahudi. And that is those Moors who transferred on the land under the great superdivere of the pharaohs of Egypt, that they call Egypt, which is the capital dominion of the Moorish Empire. And those of us who cross the river are called the Yahudi, and that is the Moors of the Western Hemisphere, which is falsely called Ibri, or Hebrew, and Jew. So we are the real Jews. But there is no J in Hebrew. We are the Ibri. We are those who cross the river. We are the Amalekites, who are the heirs of the North, South, Central, Ancient Omexum, which is North, Central, South America, which is North, South, Central, Africa, which is North, South, Central America, and we are the heirs and the birthright primogeniture inheritors, and we are speaking up, therefore, the claimants of right, i.e., the imposter Americans, which are actually Europeans, who have been occupying our land under the corporate entity styled as the U.S. Corporation Company, which last registration was June the 15th, 1925, defunct, and all of their seats of government were passed into the IMF as of June the 5th, 1933, about 4 years after they got rid of Noble Drali, selling the government or transferring their seats. And we know that all of those persons in Washington, D.C., and all of their franchisees and all of their departments and all of their officers and all of their officers have been transferred to the IMF, and all the regulations of their corporate activities have been dealt with under the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, and that they are absolutely operating as imposters. Hopefully, enough conscious Moors will become active and take their places amongst the affairs of men, as responsibly stated by Noble Drali, and start regulating or making rights of claim on their estates and on their properties, etc.
So, two more questions. One pertaining to the trustees. You said the U.S. has owners. Is it the same trustees for Canada?
Yes, they are.
The same.
This is why when you start getting this information, that you'll start finding that they're burying it. Because your former questions indicate with your questions and the fact that they were avoiding answering your questions, or that you could not find them, being that anything dealing with public servants should be registered for the public record. Isn't that true? That public servants and the authority that they're exercising is supposed to be public knowledge. Any public servant, and write this down for those who don't know, I know many of you already know because I know that you've been studying quite strongly and diligently up in Canaanland, but keep in mind that any so-called public servant or trustee must operate with a charter, and it must be conjoined to a bond. And therefore, the charter and bond which goes together is supposed to be registered with the public. And if they do not have it and do not expose it, then they're committing a felonious crime. Also, they have a Dun & Bradstreet number, an EIN number. All of these things, when you ask for and they don't expose them, then they're violating international law because they're operating on an international forum. And keep in mind, because they are franchises of the United States Corporation, since it has been dissolved, they've been dissolved. This is the reason why they won't expose it to you, because they're committing war crimes. And this is also why Pope Francis issued that motu proprio apostolic letter that came into force September the 1st of last year, 2013, and why you're seeing so many of the so-called officials of the different agencies resigned on that date, September the 1st of 2013, because now they're going after them for war crimes. And this is why they're trying to avoid these things, etc., exposing that, because most of them, these corporate entities, even the municipalities whose operations are to denationalize Aboriginal indigenous people, understand that there's warrants out for both the Pope and the Queen. And logically, the franchisees are in trouble, etc. That's the real reason why the Pope resigned early that time. He wasn't sick. He resigned because they got warrants out for him. And so what they did, they made him in the nuns' quarters because they can't let him off the Vatican, because as soon as he hits those swords, they're going to arrest him. So keep in mind that the officials, the so-called officials of Canada, are under the crown, and keep in mind that your three cities that deal with the triple star or the trinity of the operations of the Inquisition and the discovery doctrine is the Vatican, which is a city-state acting as a sovereign nation, and they pay no taxes. London, which is a city-state, has its own flag, does not pay any taxes. And Washington, D.C., which is a city-state that has its own flag, does not paying any taxes, etc. All of them have been in cahoots destroying the world. And now that the world's government has finally figured out what Noble Raleigh has been telling them all the time, the world's governments are now dumping all of their T-bills, and this is why you have all these upheavals in all these other nation states. And it's getting ready to come here, so you better get prepared.
So, all right, next question. Maduro, Venezuela's president, launched an international campaign to divide Latin America from the U.S. corporation. How relative is that to Moorish Americans?
Because you got to look at chapter 47 in your Holy Quran, and it gives you the parameters of the Moorish Empire. As a matter of fact, so there's no confusion, let me read it, so I'm not going to leave it to assumption. The Prophet Noble Raleigh says, study yourselves, study well. And when you would have studied well, and would ask me what to study next, says what?
Study yourself.
Yes, study yourselves. So let's read chapter 47. I won't read the whole chapter for respect for time, because we're not all in the same house, and I know we have limited time for Skype. So let's keep things in context. This is Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa. The inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem. So you can see that Ethiopia is representative of the demarcation line of a survey of the division of land. It is not a people. It is the demarcation land of surveying that is done with transiting when you're marking out land masses, which are called parcels, which is what you also see in the divine constitutional bylaw being parcel of the said government. Parcel means a land mass. That's a survey issue. And most people who don't read don't recognize that. That's why when the sellouts tampered with that constitution, a lot of the grand governors start debating and trying to call us renegade Moors, because those who know law saw what they did and start bringing it to the people's attention that these people were traitors, because we know law. But keep that in mind. Keep these little things in mind, so you're going to make sure that you know how to read and that you all have law books, so that these traitors amongst you won't be undermining you. Because Raleigh warned you, he said, be careful, Moors. Some of your own brothers and sisters with turbans and fezzes on will be trying to say, I'll put you back in slavery. But let me continue in the Circle 7 Quran. Now, the dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and in later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa, they were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. Their dominion and inhabitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa across the great Atlantis, even unto the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands before the great earthquake which caused the great Atlantic Ocean. And so you can see that's the parameters, the geographical parameters of the Moorish Empire. So that includes Canaanland, Mexico, South America, Peru, all the islands, the Atlantis Islands, Puerto Rico, Haiti, Jamaica, etc. And these foreign Europeans have these brothers and sisters with green cards that should not have none. They should have nationality cards. The only ones who have green cards is the Europeans. See how important your nationality card is? Also, the Grand Sheik read from United States law, expatriation, etc., in that in anything, these Moors got to prove that they're not Moorish. They got to prove foreign nationality. Or if so jure, as the law stands, they're Moorish subjects. So when we talk about Canaanland, North America, don't confuse the corporations with the aggregate land. They are distinctly two different entities. This is why we also, as we talked about earlier, and I know Grand Sheik Cujo has already exposed it to you, Moors, the corporate papers of the United States Corporation, so that you can know the difference between the aggregate land, because most people who have never been properly educated think that the United States is the land. It's a private
religious corporation belonging to the Jesuits. The land is Morocco, the Maghreb, etc. And so all Moors should know that. That's why chapter 47 is important. An interesting thing is that Moors have read that over and over again, and if you talk to many of them about the aggregate territorial boundaries of the Moorish Empire, they're not only not aware of it, when asked, they're usually talking some kind of belief system. They don't even know the aggregate boundaries of the Moorish Empire. Islam.
I also want to clear up something with Venezuela. When Chavez was in office, and he was actually having a lot of problems with Bush administration. And this problem stems from back then. And what we need to be aware of is that they were conscious then on the division line between the U.S. corporation, or even the term America and Latin America. And that's something that Moors have to clear up when we addressing this issue, is that Latin America is itself a fiction. And we have to correct that terminology and push that while they're pushing that international campaign, meaning that we should add on to the international campaign, because if we allow them to do it by themselves, it still will be truth and falsehood strangely mixed. So we play a important role in the international campaign on what's going on. But what we should be trying to do is show them to do a campaign on the division or the disconnection between America and the U.S. corporation, not Latin America and the U.S. corporation, because they're trying to break away from the U.S. corporation concept. But America, we're a part of that, they're a part of that, we're all one. And even the so-called Latin America is still America, or Morocco is Moorish America. So if we're going to do an international campaign, or if anybody's going to do it, we should clear that up so that they can correct it with the proper terminology. Because what they'll do is create another fiction by giving so-called Latin America their own identity, and that would also debase them away from us. And like the Grand Chief said, that we're all one. So we don't want the falsehood to start getting exposure. We want to go ahead and clear that up in the process.
Yes, and we must, and this is back to the fundamental principle that people need to know the distinction, this is back to miseducation, but also back to, like the Grand Chief said, us taking the responsibility, being leaders in the Moorish movement, is that it's our duty and responsibility to have taught the people. And of course, those who have been at the vanguard have been doing that. However, there's been many who have been holding seats of authority within the Moorish movement, have been lax in their responsibility, and have not suffered the responsibility of the enforcement of caveat emptor. Therefore, by duty and instructions of our divine constitutional bylaws, by obligation of our charter, I present this information to you. The corporate papers for the United States Corporation, right here, which you all see, which is 0009, Articles of Incorporation, 80002555-948, filed 7th month, 15th day, 1925, and it's the Certificate of Incorporation of the United States Corporation Company, ETC, in Florida, Book A1, page 9. The United States is a private religious corporation, has not a daggone thing to do with the land, except that they've been doing what? Governing our land, because the grand governors and grand chiefs of the Moorish Science Temple have not prepared the people to take their places amongst the affairs of men, and are considered incompetent or either sellouts, and therefore by default have given the United States corporate European foreigners de facto jurisdiction and mandate to continue operating as trustees over Morocco, because the people have not been made competent. However, this discussion is to make sure that you are competent and to take your places amongst the affairs of men. So you must know the distinction between corporate entities and aggregate organic land.
Islam. Also, another question is, the alleged NAU just had a meeting in Mexico. Are they on the run due to Moorish American activity? Is this just another sub-corporation?
Again, same thing. You got to remember, on all sides, you had both supporters and sellouts. As you begin to comprehend what is required of you as a national, and of course the shenanigans that have been going on in the corporate governments for over these generations, you will recognize and answer that question yourself. It is both yes and no. Some yes and some no. You will have to measure them by constitutional principles. But keep this in mind, when Chavez came to the United Nations a few years back when Bush was in office, he says, I smell sulfur. Now you already know that, as soon as he said that, the Jesuit had already tagged him. If he ever goes in the hospital, which he did, that they were going to pump him with nanoviruses and cancers. The same thing they did when they killed Gaddafi for trying to bring the gold back in for the people. The same reason they killed Kennedy, same reason they murdered Malcolm when he found out, and the same reason they murdered Martin Luther King, who was a 33-degree Mason, when he threatened to tell the people the truth about who they really was. Because all of them in secret had Moorish fezzes. Now, keep this in mind. Canada is a mere corporation of the crown. You must get this through your head. And don't just listen to what I'm saying to you. Write this down, because people keep having difficulty with this. Comprehending the difference between corporations and living beings, corpses and the living. The 14th Amendment created the corpses in 1868 when they closed the Freedmen's Bureau. The corporation is not to be confused with the land. Miseducated people have much difficulty discerning the difference, which is why some of the questions arise logically with misinformation about looking at Canada, the corporation, distinguished from Canaanland, the aggregate physical land. The physical land is Morocco, north, central, south, and the adjoining islands. The corporate U.S. corporation has had jurisdiction over all of them via the Discovery Doctrine and the Secret Treaty of Verona, which is the agreement of the European nations with their last major meeting taking place in 1884 to 85 in Berlin, Germany, dividing up the Moorish Empire under the guise of the Ottoman Empire. And logically, the Gold Act, the Trading with the Enemy Act, the Buck Act, the Negro Act, etc., are aspects of the operations of the suppression of the Moors of the Western Hemisphere, including the Christian black codes, which were adopted in all the states in 1868 when they closed the Freedmen's Bureau, which of course the Moorish Holy Temple of Science was established to continue the work of the Freedmen's Bureau. Without that information being properly dispensed to the Moors who were coming through this movement, so that they would misunderstand the mission and think it was mere religion and not take it seriously and be caught off guard, which is what's happening to the world today, particularly the Moors of North America, who don't know they're getting ready to be caught.
Islam. And another question. And this is a three-part question. And also, Shatif, you want to get your input on this as well. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to start first. It says, what is more important, nationality or a nationality card? This is asked because we notice some people always come into the movement for cards, not nationality. So I'm going to address that, because we're all going to address it actually, but I'm going to go first. What I would say to that is they both come with the territory, meaning that, and I just had a lesson on this Friday night, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali stated, if you have a nation, then you must have a free national name to be recognized by that nation and this nation. So I'm going to explain what that means. Meaning that if you are a free national being, if you are a natural person, if you refer to yourself as a citizen of any land, of any government, then identification
would automatically be with you pertaining to your status, your allegiance, your relationship to that nation. So if you have a nation or if you proclaim a nation, then you will take on the identity of that nation. So it's automatic when you say a nationality card. It's automatic when someone is a member of that nation, of any nation of the earth. Because through that you are known and recognized by that nation. And going back into the lesson Friday night we had on that, is Acts 6 says, with us, all members must claim their nationality. A lot of people misconstrue what that means. The word proclaim is a lawful term. It means to declare officially according to a governmental procedure.
And publicly.
So, yes, and that's public. So that doesn't mean there's a process to come along with proclaiming a nationality, or even what they say naturalization, which is a fiction, but there's still a process to go along with that. Whenever you perform that process, you're automatically given identification. That's automatic. So if anybody is a free national or a part of a nation, the governmental procedure is for them to declare it or proclaim it. That means to profess it, to declare it out their mouth. This is why we give, in our process, we give out affidavits. Because an affidavit is an affirmation, which means that is the words that came out of your mouth. That's the first order of law to proclaim a nation or a nationality, is to declare it through what they call an oath of allegiance. And that's what you're doing when you're proclaiming a nationality. You're taking allegiance to that particular constitutional government. Anytime someone comes and naturalizes, even according to the fiction, they are still required to take what they call an oath of allegiance. Back in 1865, when the prophet told us in Acts 6 that these names were given to slaves in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery, he said this is a new era of time now. Now he was making reference to two things there. But it's a couple things that went down in 1865. And one thing that Abraham Lincoln did outside of the Emancipation Proclamation was he set up a forum for the Asiatics, ones that was branded Negroes, black, and colored. He set up a process for them to take an oath of allegiance before the constitutional government so that they can be recognized as citizens of the United States. He was initiating a process that will eventually bring them into the constitutional fold of the government. Notice I said initiating the process, because that's one of the reasons why they got angry with him and assassinated him, because they didn't agree with where he was going with this. This is why you hear the terminology of Lincoln tried to free the slaves and he turned their face the opposite way on a coin and they made it the brass coin known as the penny. So you always got to understand exactly what he was doing. But it was through legislative acts that he was trying to correct that would eventually free the Moors. He didn't complete his mission. They assassinated him before he was able to do that. But it was called the Oath of Allegiance. And also, this is what the prophet had finished. When he came in 1928, officially declared us a nation and set up the process. What he did was camelback off of what Lincoln was trying to do back in 1865. That's why he made reference to it. But he said that it only comes to the connection of Moorish divine and national movement because it was never done according to a legislative act. It was never officially done. So that's one of the reasons why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, was actually to finish the process that Lincoln tried to start. It wasn't ordained for Lincoln to do, it was ordained for the prophet to do. So just tying that all in, those are legislative acts that never took place. Starting with the Nationalization Act of 1790. It never really addressed the Asiatics in North America. It always dealt with the black status and the so-called foreign status. So we were cast out of those Naturalization and Nationalization Acts because the first act that they created was called the Nationalization Act. And then the next act they came out with, they changed it into the Naturalization Act.
And then that's where they got us with that 14th Amendment. So that whole thing was never to introduce a proper or a natural nationalization process for the natural citizens of the land. Aboriginal, indigenous, or those who came from the other respective territories. It was never established for them to do so. That's why Drew Ali did that. That's why he set up this process for natural beings to take their place in the affairs of men and be recognized as free nationals through the naturalization process that he set up and the nationalization cards that he issued the members. The cards shows your allegiance and your relationship to that nation. So through that, you're known and recognized by this nation and all the nations of the earth. Islam, that's my portion. I'm gonna let Shatik shine on that, and then Grand Chief Taj Tarik can finish it out.
I'm going to go to the question now.
The question was,
the relationship between the nationality card and nationalization.
Yeah, is there a difference between the nationality card and the nationality itself? Because you say Moors coming to the movement just want the nationality card, but they really don't want to hold a relationship, or not hold a relationship, but they're confused about the card and nationality itself. They can see you.
Okay, Islam, boss. Islam. Check the go. I'm going to expound, I'm going to take it from another perspective from where the Grand Chief was coming from. There is no difference between the nationality card and nationality. What the difference is having the knowledge of what nationality is and what the card is for. I'm saying, like a lot of, I hear the question, like a lot of Moors do come in just for just for the card, but they don't have a clue about what nationality is about. So like being that they don't have a clue about it, they get caught up in what is called the color of law, or get trapped when it's time for them to defend it. You know what I mean? So in truth, there is no difference between nationality card or other nationality. What the difference is knowing what your nationality is, knowing how to defend it, and knowing what the purpose of having that nationality card is about.
Islam. National. This goes back to the fundamental principles with the charter of the Moorish National that's given to the organizations that are part of the Moorish Divine and National Movement. The world recognized the people and their connection to the Moorish Divine and National Movement, not just to the temple, their connection to the movement. That includes the Old Canaanite Temple, the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, the Moorish Science Temple of America, and any other Moorish group that has split off from them, which included the Temple of Islam, which later became the Nation of Islam, and other organizations, all of whose leaders had this information, etc. It is known universally across the planet that nationalization includes both education into constitutional law and international law principles, and tests must be given, so the people must be instructed. So nationalization is a process of education, and the cards are what you call supportive information for any said government to make a distinction between what you call nationals and persons who are assumed to be Christian property under the 14th Amendment, etc., to be distinguished. And so you look at them as conjoined. So the problem that you're expressing is really a reflection or in evidence of persons who had positions of authority in the Moorish movement who have either called themselves selling out or have been neglected in their obligations. Because like anything else, if somebody's called a barber, they're introduced to tools. Shears, razors, clippers, hair follicles, germicide, hair structure, bone structure, the crown of the head, the patterns of how hair grows, etc., different textures of hair, and are instructed with different guards and other instruments on how to cut the hair. It's called technique, it's called discipline.
And so nationality has a discipline, just like any other science. If you teach somebody how to mow a lawn, you teach them different types of grasses, or how they grow, the different seasons, the different time, or the different, what you call temperate zones, etc. It's not complicated at all. What you have is that people run into these problems is because a lot of people have been put in leadership in the Moorish Science Temple of America who are not qualified for those positions. And that comes from both the great sellout and what you call nepotism. And like any other discipline, it goes together. As an example, if someone comes from another nation state into another political jurisdiction, they're required under test to take constitutional tests that they must pass between 85 and 90% to get a green card. That's all over the world. These principles are universal. It's not complex at all. And so like Noble Bey said, and also like the Grand Chief said, the Grand Chiefs are expressing that nationality and the nationality card go together. However, with the nationality, it's a body of information, and that's what must be made clear. And therefore, this is also why Noble required for every temple must have a school. That was not an option. With the charter, every temple must have a school. M-U-S-T does not mean maybe or how you feel or what your opinion may be. And due to the fact that that has not been carried out, we're all paying the price for that, logically, which is why the question is arise. Because logically, if we had the knowledge, the question wouldn't even arise. What you have is that they've been opening up McDonald's without French fries and burgers. That's called colored operations. And so just like other colored organizations, you have a lot of Moorish Science Temples of America that have been opened up in name only. And so what they've been doing is giving out nationality cards, but have not been giving out national instruction. And so we're all paying the price for this, so let's not get angry or upset. Let's start fixing this. So you must know that any Moorish American that's been in the Moorish Science Temple for a year or so should be very versed in international law and in constitutional law. And if you ask them these fundamental civic questions and they haven't answered and can't answer, then therefore somebody who's in positions of authority should be unseated immediately under caveat emptor, and you are to correct that immediately. That's what that's in place for. You have a divine constitution and bylaw. Read the prophet's literature dealing with the prophet's plea to the nation, the divine constitution by law, divine warning by the prophet to the nations, and that's plural. And he said, help me in my mission to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government enforcing our Constitution of the United States of America. That means that's a covenant contract that's to be enforced, and the charge is put on all Moorish Americans to enforce it. Therefore, they must know international law in order to do that. If they're not capable of doing that, in law that will be referred to as abandonment, which would allow their estate to be claimed by whoever is governing their estate. And logically, the United States Corporation is a private European corporation that has been under de facto rulership of governing the affairs of the Moors of the Western Hemisphere, which is very clear in your divine warning. So keep in mind, you want to study international law, civics, the highest level of civics, constitutional law, enforce that constitution, and that will answer your questions.
Islam, I know we have a lot of questions we got coming, so we'll do the best we can to try to speed it up. I just think it's imperative that I just make this statement back on that same address of the nationality card. The nationality card itself is the proof, is the tangible proof of the relationship between yourself and the nation that you're claiming. That's very, very, very important. This is why the prophet says the card is for your salvation. That shows the distinction, and this is just for us and for you too, but for us, it shows the distinction between the card that we have in our pocket, known as the fraudulent driver's license, social security card, whatever state credential one might hold, because none of those credentials indicate that you're a free national of the land. So because we didn't own or have in our possession or could prove that we were a citizen of the land, Prophet Noble Ali issued to the Asiatics a nationality card. That's a national ID. That is the only ID that we have proof that we are free national beings and citizens of this land. That's very, very important. That shows that you are a national and part of the nation. That's the proof. That's the tangible proof that you owe your allegiance to a nation. You can have the knowledge of nationality and be able to articulate the science of nationality, the political meaning of nationality. But if you're asked for proof and you do not possess the national identification of the nation, then it's your word against theirs. And that's international law. Islam.
It's paper society.
You got a question, brother? Islam. Islam, what's your question?
I rise and give praise to Allah, the great God of the universe. I give honor to his prophet, Lil Ali, and honor to all the Moors in here today.
Islam to you. Islam to you.
I've been having trouble with myself with like certain entities out there confiscating my ID, and even after I go to court battling them, they still don't return it.
Islam. All right, now, and I'm going to repeat that for the people online, the Moors online. The brother said that he's been having issues with, he may present his nationality card or Moorish credentials, and they might take it from him, keep it, and don't give it back. And this has been happening for years for active Moors. A lot of active Moors go through that. And when I say active Moors, meaning that some Moors think that when the prophet said the card is for your salvation, don't flash your card. Some Moors think that that means just save it, put it on the back burner. You know, one day you're going to need it. It might be 50 years from now, but you're going to need it. And a lot of people don't use it because of that concept. And when I say active Moors do use it. That's part of some of the things that Moors have encountered by them taking the credentials and not wanting to give it back. Immediately, the Constitution serves as your recourse. That's your protection of that law. The nature of the Constitution protects your life, liberty, and your property, right? Pursuit to happiness. So a free man's property is his rights. That's part of your rights. Your divine rights that the prophet was talking about. Whatever is in your possession, whatever is your property, is your right to have in your possession unmolested. Your nationality card is private property. Anything in your possession is private property. The only thing that is technically not your property is the credentials that they give you, which is privilege and credentials, i.e., like I said, that driver's license, that's their property. They tell you that. That's why they say it's a privilege and it could be revoked. It's a privilege for them to give you that. That's technically their property. They got a lien on that instrument. Social Security card as well. There's ways on how to counter that. Birth certificate, anything that the state issue is their property. But whatever is issued by another nation, a other entity outside of that has a lawful charter and is a free nation that's not encumbered, then that's private property, and they have no right to infringe on private property. When that occurs, it's the position of, like Grand Sheik was saying, of your nation, your government officials, and yourself, if you're not aligned with any government, to file charges in pursuit to stealing, kidnapping, etc. Everything we did back in 2005 with our suit is in the nature of what you're talking about. We addressed those issues before. So Moore's got to go really back to what we did, because that was kind of like a standard on what should be done when those things occur. It could be your vessel, your conveyance, you call it your car, your automobile, your bike, whatever you got, children, whatever's in your property. Once that's taken, there's a process starting with, on a lower level, a replicant needs to be done. That's on a lower level. And then you can get into higher level common law writs. Whenever something occurs, you have to file documentation to execute the recovery of your property. They're not going to give it back if you don't follow the process of getting it back. We can go down there, we can march, we can get emotional, we can yell, we can fight, but that's not the constitutional process for retrieving property. The first execution by us needs to be done is they call a writ of reprimand, and that's on a county level. And that's a written common law writ to execute retrieving property that was lost due to stolen, lost, etc. So they took your nationality card, they took any documents from you. The first thing to get it back is file a writ of reprimand. Notify the sheriff that your property was stolen. It's their obligation in their court to execute the first order of business to retrieve that property. Then Moors collectively need to understand that once that occurs, that becomes a class action suit. Because that property belongs to the nation. That's governmental property. You ever see, like, with the, here in New Jersey, in other states too, but state vehicles sometimes have license plates and sometimes they don't. Or either private property is only reserved for governmental use will have a sign that says official use only. That means that only people with permission is privy to this area or this documentation. State of New York. On their police cars, they don't have New York license plates. They don't have New York license plates. Look at them again. They have a plate that'll say either official use or NYPD, but they don't have numbers to identify that vehicle. It will say official use only. That means that that's private property, and only people privileged to that is people with privilege to deal with that property. Same thing with anything issued by the Moorish nation. It's for official use only. Tribes, tribals, other nations, consuls, diplomats, if they have something displayed, it will say official use only. So no one else has the right outside of the nation to confiscate that and keep it, and especially don't give it back to you. If they take something for investigation purposes, whatever, then they're supposed to issue you that right back to you once that investigation is over. There's no right, they have no lawful justification to hold on to your property and don't give it back. But once again, a body of Moors have to deal with law and understand this in order to address these issues when they occur. That becomes a class action suit. It could happen in Texas. And I myself have lawful jurisdiction to add into a class action suit on that behalf, because that's just as much my property as it is theirs. Even though it's issued to the natural person with their name on it, that's issued by the Moorish government. So that's a class action suit. They steal something from you, they steal something from me. Likewise, vice versa. Canaanland, whatever go down there, that's still Moorish business. We could do a class action suit here in reference to whatever goes on there, and they can add into a class action suit on whatever goes on here, because it's still property and business of the Moorish nation. Islam?
National, that's international. And keep in mind with your question, read Act 1 of the Divine Constitutional Bylaws, but that's again where that we have to enforce caveat emptor that the Prophet told us relative to the grand governors, because that's already an issue of theirs. Meaning that, just like the Grand Chief says, that's already a national issue. That's why they're put in power to make law. So we don't have to tell you that they're not carrying out their duties. They shouldn't be in MCs. That's number one. Number two, rights of indigenous people is what Obama signed, right? President of the U.S. Corporation. And so therefore all Moorish Americans and all indigenous people should know this. All of our people across the board, right? This is part one, and we'll just read five sections of part one, and look what is obvious. And this would be your argument to them. This is secondary to the fact that you should be getting all their bond numbers, the names of everybody who should be charged with grand theft, human trafficking in important international law. Article 1. Indigenous people have the right to full and effective enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms recognized by the Charter of the United Nations. This is not Nation of the Earth. We just talked about decolonization earlier before you was here. Of the universal
Universal Declaration of Human Rights and international human rights law. Article 2, indigenous individuals and peoples are free and equal to all other individuals and peoples in dignity and rights, and have the right to be free from any kind of adverse discrimination, in particular based on their indigenous origin and identity. Article 3, indigenous people have the right of self-determination, and by virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. Article 4, indigenous people have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinct political, economic, social, and cultural characteristics, as well as their distinct political, economical, social, and cultural life of the state. Article 5. Now notice how it's covering what you're dealing with. Every indigenous individual has the right to a nationality. And as you can see, each one of those points were just violated. Now those charges, the letter should go to the governor, to the sheriff, to Eric Holder, and to the International Court of Justice, with the names, the bond numbers, etc., of those individuals that took your car.
I've been sending writs. I've been sending writs only to that court. I didn't really know who was above them.
Good. Now let's back up. These are fundamental protocols, and this is why it's important to participate with active Moors so you can learn protocols. And this is overall. This is back to the operations of temples. They are regencies. And this is back to really comprehending what this activity is for, even while you're here. Number one, when you're dealing with cultural operations, it's like if somebody steals your bike, do you send a letter only to their house for the retrieval of the bike, or do you notify the sheriff and others? See the protocols? These are fundamentals. As long as you're in-house, they're going to bury it, because they know that they're criminals. You comprehend? Expanding on that, Noble Dry Lady set up the Moorish Holy Temple of Science and the Moorish Science Temple of America, or ETC, to address these problems. Because of COINTELPRO operations, some of the proper protocols have not been taught and also have not been carried out. And so therefore, people or the members have been pretty much left on their own to try to figure this stuff out, unfortunately, and therefore have suffered unnecessarily when actually these people should have been kicked out of office. That's why Drawley also said, he said, the day's going to come that I'm going to open up the floodgates, and people are going to come into this movement with their eyes already open, and they're going to move them old Moors to the back of the seats. That's a nice way of saying throwing their butts out on the curb, which should have been done a long time ago. We're suffering for that, but how will I get past that? Tell you what you need to do. What you need to do is you need to do what you would call a writ or an affidavit in relationship to a cause of action. What you want to do is write a dispensation on everything that took place that you informed us with, word for word. You want to name the persons who were impersonating officers, because I understand they're not officers, they were not elected. They're private security guards. What they did, do what you can to find out their bond numbers. You find the bond number of the municipality or the persons that they work for, and you're going to draft a letter, you're going to send it to Christie, and hold him to his responsibility according to international law. You want to send it to Eric Holder, you can send it to President Obama. Tell them they're in violation. All right? That's for starters. Now, unfortunately, we have for years have had the pressure of going across the country and teaching active groups of Moors to protect their rights, knowing already ourselves very well that the grand governors of the Moorish movement have been compromised. And I'm not holding back on what I just said, because it's very true, because the problems that have consisted should not be taking place. You know, and we're forced to try to teach people to protect themselves because we can't do everything. You know, however, what I just told you is what should be done. Not limited to that, but minimally. All right?
Islam, man.
Islam.
All right. It says, have you heard of South America being identified as the United States of South America?
Of course, because they're all states. Even when you're dealing with the OAS, Organization of American States. This is back to the principle of people needing to comprehend that the state does not mean the corporate states here. States are also nations. And the United States continental is the states continentally. You must know what continents are. This is back to basic grade school, what you call geography. And this is also, again, indicative of us being miseducated, but the questions are good because it shows us all the work that needs to be done, that we're behind it. But I'm glad you asked the question because it gives you common sense. That nation states, when you're saying state, you could be referring to corporate entities or small jurisdictions, provinces, etc. But you're also talking nation states, etc. And so keep in mind that America are continents, two of the world's major continents, and your political jurisdictions are also states. And whereas the American states to the north are uniting, so are the American states of the south. So the United States is universal. As an example, you'll see Estados Unidos de Mexico, or United States of Brazil, United States of San Salvador. So the United States is a political metaphor. The only people that don't know that stuff is most people up here, because they have the mentality of boys and girls. However, the civilized world is waiting for us to catch up. So the United States is a political metaphor. The states of South America are the United States, just like the political states of the North are the United States. And so now you're making reference to the continental United States. Now you see the flag, the red flag with the cedar tree. Now you also recognize the statement in the Quran when Drali talks about the tall cedars that the people's head would rise above. The tall cedars, that's why they also use the tall cedars as a symbol in some of these secret societies, because it's really sending you messages. So yes, the continental United States, South America, yes, is the United States. Continental. It's not
yes, that was great. That was a great introduction. Actually, there's 3 United States. There's 2 corporate, and there's 1 sovereign, which is what Brother Taj is speaking about, the continental United States. And this is the regional. This is the whole continent. There's actually 3 continents and an isthmus with adjoining islands. That's what the United States is, the continental state. So just to make another clarification, there's 3. As the Branson said, there's a corporate, and then there's the sovereign, which is the continental.
And this is also when Drali makes his appeal to all true, quote-unquote, American citizens. He's talking from north to south.
Islam.
Another question. It says, when we take the fiat out the bank, what should we do with it? Buy gold, silver? Is there a process to start reclaiming our land from under the occupation, from a native Indian? Were we railroaded out of Moorish nationality by our chiefs with the Indian Acts?
Yes, part of it. That was a false agreement to create what is called politically. So write these down, these 2 words, 3 actually. Schism/schismata, dogma/dogmata, and disassociation. Keep in mind that Native American is a sociological term created by European colonists and is not Aboriginal or indigenous in its character. It is a political designation that's created to create schismata to divide the Moors of the North Gate against each other, with some of them thinking that they could get a benefit. All of those who agreed to be Native American and Indians, etc., came under the jurisdiction of the BIA, which is the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and under that jurisdiction, they actually gave it the birthright again. And as you already know, all the so-called
and Indians. The Europeans been now taxing their casinos and everything that they thought that they got a benefit of selling themselves out, etc. We're Moors, they're Moors. And they need to stop this model and falling for the game.
Also, part of the question was, what should we do with the money?
All right. First of all, they're not taking money out the bank.
Well, it says fiat.
Yeah, I already know what they're saying. Yeah, but I'm just saying, because the other thing that we need to do is stop calling fiat money. Call it what it is fiat. The Federal Reserve notes, while you can transfer it, it's called bookkeeping entries for transferring energy and resources. That's what it's for them controlling your resources only. Now, while you can retrieve some quality for it, use it up. But also understand this, because the world bankers and also other nation states know what's going on. Understand that those who are selling gold, the real agents are not really selling gold, they're selling what you call salted gold. This is where they're selling titanium that's been electroplated, etc. Same thing with silver bars, etc. Because the nations of the world are in a state of what you call lawful gold backwardation. This is where all the nation states of the world who are responsible are reclaiming their gold bullion from London, from Paris, and from the United States corporation who's been doing business for the Popes of Rome, enforcing the discovery doctrine, because you all forgot that the Christians came here to steal our gold. That's what their mission was. And so now what they're trying to do is close the deal now, while the people are weakest, etc., to force them under the New World Order, under worshiping the Popes of Rome, etc. So keep in mind this, while you got it, buy some dry goods or something of quality. Do not waste it on anything. Buy dry goods or some kind of foodstuffs that you can preserve your family with when the Europeans begin to try to starve you out, which is they're absolutely going to do. Now, what they're doing, the Federal Reserve in operations for the Jesuits, because that's who it belongs to, are printing roughly about 8 billion notes an hour in order to make what you have in your pockets worthless. So that means last year, if that note was worth 50 cents, it may be worth now 30 cents. And within a few weeks, it will be worth maybe 15 cents. In a few more weeks, it'll be worth 5 cents. And a few more by June the 1st of this year, it will be worth minus 5 cents. At that point, it's toilet paper. Now, as of June, now, I want you all, I'm not even going to tell you the House Joint Resolution. I want you to type this into computers. House Joint Resolution, blank, 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 blank. It's going to have 4 numbers. June the 1st, 2014. At that point, whatever's in the bank belongs to them, and they're going to confiscate it. So now you figure out what you're going to do. I'm not going to tell you what to buy. I'm going to tell you start appealing to your common sense. But I suggest to you to do something with it while you can. But before this year is out, you're not going to do anything with it. Because it ain't going to be yours. And if you got it in your pocket, it ain't going to be no different than having, pasty, Hershey wrappers that you just ate the candy bars out of, because the wrappers you may as well put in the trash can because you're not going to sure you're going to spend it. Meaning that while it's spendable, do something with it. You decide that. Don't try to put it on me to tell you what to do with your common sense should tell you to do. Meaning that don't go buy no merry-go-round horses because you like it as a in your children's room. Because it would be a waste. But whatever you recognize intelligent that is of value that your family can survive on for about 6 months before the nations of the earth have to come to our rescue, which is what's going to have to take place, you figure it out. And I'll tell you right now, anybody that got real gold ain't going to sell it to you. However, you can sell your head. But this is what I really suggest. Everybody better get in their proper person, because whoever don't have a claim of the state ain't going to eat. I think that should be clear enough. I.e., back to what Raleigh said. If you don't do anything else, declare your nationality, because all the other processes that are in place are going to collapse, whether they're administrative process, UCC claims, UCC1 financial statements, and everything else is going to fall. And the only thing that's going to stand is somebody has a right of claim of estate. And if you ain't national, you have no claim of estate. Because the only ones that can make any claim of being creditors to anything are the proven heirs to the grand lost estate that Drew Ali told you about.
Brother Jack, you got a point.
It's in motion, eh?
I can't hear you. Speak up clear.
This is going to happen everywhere.
This is taking place across the planet. This is what I told you earlier, is what's taking place with the nations of the earth is called gold backwardation. Punch that in the computer. The nations of the earth are in the process of gold backwardation. And go study for yourself and see what's taking place and think you're going to go out here and go buy some gold. They ain't selling you nothing. Put it, brothers, you're all in Canaanland. Now remember when Seton Rock came up there recently? He was up there last year. They stopped at the gas station to get some gas on the way back in. And he put 220 notes on the counter at the gas station to get some gas, and the attendant told him, we don't want that. Let that tell you. You want to go over across the street and transfer. They asked him, do they have any Canadian dollars? Because they won't take them US dollars. And guess what? That's happening around the world. They just don't want you to know it. So you figure out if you got something. If others ain't taking it, if they don't hold her and back it up with something, then keep in mind they got everybody else's gold and all. Now Venezuela, again, the question was about Venezuela earlier. Remember, if y'all check the record, Venezuela got their gold back. Germany demanded their back. They only gave them 5 tons. Of all their gold, that's an act of war. And Germany, which is one of their major allies, just raised their embassies and knocked the antennas down with military helicopters. You think while we sitting around here playing around with this stuff, should I buy 2 cents, buy taffy, or bro? You keep playing around. Y'all want to figure this stuff out real quick. But I suggest you pay attention to June 1, 2014. That's your answer.
And also to add on to that, Drew Ali set this up in a way where we can preserve ourselves and our future posterity. Meaning that when we organize, when we rebuild our nation, he said that we feel that this best could be done by patronizing our own, right, and cultivating our own acres of land. So land is very important when we're even talking gold. When we're talking commerce. If we don't control the land and take ownership over the land and preserve the land, then we don't have a claim of right. Back what the Grand Sheik was saying. But within the land aspect, what we should be doing is cultivating our land. That's very important when it comes down to the fiat. When it comes down to tonight, they could say, well, the current dollar is no longer in circulation. We're introducing something else. Regardless of what that is, you now got to go work for that in order to do trade and commerce. So the way around that is, if we cultivate our own acres of land, we set up our own resources, we deal with our own raw materials, we go back to the ancient trade of the Moors. You purchase through trade and bartering. So when you have to eat or when you have to do something, yeah, you can take food from your own land, but now if you need something outside of what you can produce, then you don't necessarily go buy with money or with gold if you don't have to. You trade for whatever you reproduce. And this is how the Moors dealt business with the other Moors in the surrounding kingdoms and the surrounding empires through trade and bartering. It wasn't necessarily through being a consumer going to buy. And that's how the Moors got reduced when they was denationalized. This is what we did. We became consumers. So anything we need, we got to go to the store. We need something right now, right? We got to send somebody to the store to buy it. That's called a consumer. So we have got accustomed to consuming products and not reproducing products. So now that's why the demand of work is so heavy, because we got to go buy everything, and it takes some type of currency to go buy it. So we got to go work, and if we're not even working for money, that's also part of the problem. We're extending our individual energy for fiat, and we're taking that fiat to go consume whatever we need. And we're so busy doing that we're not reproducing anything. We're not growing anything. He's trying to get us back to the status of at least being entrepreneurs, to even own a business, to be in a position to work for self. That's a step up for us. Then we get to the higher levels of more science, and we start cultivating our own land and living off the land. That's a higher level, but that's really the only, what I would say, the only recourse behind the question that was asked.
Let's add to that, because I know that a lot of our people really, because they haven't been taught nationality and international law, they're not aware of how things work. So let me tell you how things are working. And this is another reason why you want to be in your proper person. Because Morocco is under occupation, and the Christian nations came together with the Berlin Conference, 1884, 1885. Keep in mind, when you go to the congressional records, that's also when the secret treaty of Verona was introduced into the congressional records. Also, in 1822, and then that's when they introduced it from with Metternich, etc. And that's the operations of the politics of the Western Hemisphere. But keep in mind, because Morocco is under occupation in international law, the occupied nation, meaning that the Romans are in control of the Moorish Empire, etc., that by law, all the resources and all things that are transferred under occupation are already paid for. Now, one of the issues is what they use with the Social Security number that was set up by Skull and Bones member Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1933 with the House Joint Resolution 192 with the 73rd Congress, is actually the issue of what is comprehended in trust law and the obligations of FOFR, or trustees. And so what happens, any so-called bills that you get are not really bills, they're statements of account against your trust that you don't know about. This is another reason why people need to know about nationality, is that the Moorish Empire's resources are under trust controlled by the U.S. corporation, which I showed you all earlier, the corporate papers. And so when they send you so-called bills in the mail, they're not really sending you bills, they're sending you statements of account. They're already paid. What it is, what you should be writing on them in red ink on a 45-degree angle is approved. And then put the CUSIC number, which is also on that Social Security, or could be the Social Security numbers, which are not yours, that's just numbers that they're assigned to you by the Popes of Rome against the estate. And write approved, and it's already paid. And that's the real truth. They don't want you to know that, so they have people working for the Federal Reserve notes in order to enslave you. But understand, you don't have to suffer, but you need to be in your proper person when you do such things. That knowledge of what I just told you is where some people who find that stuff out starts what they call that accepting for value stuff or discharging. That's what that origin is. But understand, you don't need to discharge something that's already been discharged. You need to approve the transfers of the bookkeeping made and just simply dismiss it and let them know that you've approved. Now, so what occurs is
qualified. And I've dealt with a lot of Moors over the years who attempt that. Anything you do pertaining to that, you must be in your proper person. Back to what he said when he first started. That's very important addressing any of these national issues. Governmental issues, national issues, anything dealing with law, if it's natural law or color of law. You must address these issues in your natural person, proper person. Because if you don't, remember, the only recourse you have is the law of the land, which is the Constitution. And they barred you from from that. So if you play their game and try to attempt this in an artificial status, then they still got leads.
So this is back to nationalization and the nationality card. While they're vital, because because anything you do, it better be already documented. It is wise that it's already established on the record. And this is the regency role that the Moorish Science Temple plays, that we must be assured and assist all of give support to the leadership so that they can take their position, but also command the ones who have not taken their position to take their position, because it's actually supposed to be done right through the temples. You know, this stuff is already done. It's really already set up, but you find that the law's not being enforced, it's not being carried out. And so the people are suffering unnecessarily for the sake, because, and a lot of this stuff is not known because the leadership ain't telling them. You know, this is common knowledge amongst all government and the leaderships. These people have been marching around and praying, keeping people alive. They all know this stuff, but most of them are sold out. But keep that in mind. Our people need to know that. We don't have to starve. We'll starve because we don't know the law, or because we haven't enforced the Constitution. Islam.
All right. Last question. Well, there's got another one. We have, all right, so if a Moor gets kidnapped and or injured, what should the Moor do?
See, this is where organization comes in, and this is where the Regency activities of the Moorish Science Temple of America comes in, starting with Act 1, ETC. And this is why you want to participate and support the Moorish Science Temple of America and pay your dues in order to keep these activities going, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Our nationality is free, however, it is important for you to support your organization so that when these things come about, that your organization can support you. And so what happens is a Mufti is sent out immediately, or assistant grand chiefs, ETC, those are put in power to make law. And they would assign an authorized natural person to deal with what you call Article 3 jurisdiction, Article 3, Section 2, which is diversity, ETC. And they would go to the persons, to the corporate heads, and hold them to the laws, which we just read to you, international law, ETC, and constitutional law, retrieving their member citizens, ETC. Not only that, the immediate protocol of charges made against these imposters or administrative clerks who are entertaining, they would be called law actors, who are acting as government, and in fact, not government, they would be arrested. This is also why it is necessary for the regencies to set up their court systems, locally, ETC, and those calls will be made to these persons who are impersonating officers. They've been only pretty much getting away with this stuff because we've not enforced the Constitution. I say that again and again and again. But understand there is remedy, but the remedy is going to come from us.
Islam. Also adding on to that, dealing with national government, and from an international perspective, I'm going to explain it to a national perspective. You have what you call, nations have what you call representation. And whenever there's foreign relations going on in any of the countries, they always have representation there in that country based on the nationals or the citizens from that particular country. And usually it's done within a regency called the embassy. And whenever citizens of, say for example, we're dealing with foreign relations right now. So if someone from Nigeria is here in this portion of the United States, is injured, imprisoned, kidnapped unlawfully or whatever, usually those type of nations have organizations on a local level, where they have leadership on a local regency level. Usually they're part of some type of temple, mosque, etc. So they have local representation for local issues. The local leader of those regencies should already be equipped on what to do for far as sending representation down to wherever the person is injured or kidnapped. Also having a clerk, secretary, etc., secretary of state, that is, not just a secretary that's typing up documents, but the secretary is a constitutional office. and is referred to as Secretary of State. So each temple from a Moorish side temple has a Secretary of State. And that Secretary of State should already know the lawful procedure, even if the Assistant Grand Sheik or the Grand Sheik or the Chairman is not available. The Secretary should already be equipped on what to do as far as habeas corpus to the right party of interest. And also notifying Sergeant-at-Arms, Muftis, whatever position they're in, to go address the matter. And also go down there, you know, within the proper numbers of 3, 5, or 7 to deal with these issues at law. So within the foreign relations, they will already be addressing the local government, their local temple, or their embassy. And through that correspondence, they will be sending in documentation on behalf of the relationship and the citizenship according to Title 22 of the United States Codes. So they're going to be addressing that situation with documentation according to foreign relations. Now, dealing with domestically, if a Moorish American gets into these same infractions, then their local regency, which is known as the Moorish Science Temple, if they're part of that, or either any organization that they're part of, because if you're a Moorish American, that is, proclaimed Moorish American, no man lives into himself. You shouldn't be a part of some type of Moorish organization. And it's for that. It's for representation and for protection. No man's an island. We can't be sovereign unto ourselves. It doesn't work like that. So within our organization, these Moors should be active and already equipped with the protocol and recourse on what to do when someone's injured. They should be dealing with habeas corpus and, once again, making physical appearance through proper representation. Sending someone down there that knows the law. This imposition of authority that can correspond with the supervisor, or what they call a shift commander, or supervisor, whoever's in charge there at the station. That's proper, because what happens if you send someone down there that's just a Moor, but maybe not be equipped with the knowledge of law, then they're still not going to respect them or you. It might even make it worse. So once again, we all fall short of this. And even within the temples who know the law, sometimes we still might be understaffed, where we might not have the proper manpower to even deal with these issues. And this is why it really takes activeness and takes manpower, physical manpower, to address these issues. When we dealt with the 2005 class action suit, we were suffering. We had the knowledge within our immediate team. We had the knowledge to deal with the issue. What we lacked was the manpower and the financial support. So when the prophet said it takes finance to uplift a nation, he's not just talking about keeping the doors open. He's addressing that very same issue. That's why he addressed and set up what they call the emergency fund. Because each member should have an emergency fund filed with the temple. And on your emergency fund, though, that fund is specifically put there as a trust just in case you individually have an emergency. It could be anything dealing with your personal family, house getting on fire, down to you getting injured. It could be anything. It could be dealing with funeral service, whatever. But it's through your participation and what you put on the books determines what you get out. Sort of like a life insurance.
It's back to the grand treasury.
Exactly. And we have a national treasury for national issues that takes finances on all parts of this, where you got the building fund, the bus fund, school fund. You got a whole lot of funds that needs to be, administered to uplift a nation. But from a personal perspective, I'm only addressing the question. From a personal perspective, that the emergency fund determines the extent that your temple or your organization can go to deal with your matter. Even if it goes into bail. If it's a situation where they don't respect the correspondence, the communication, and they're going to hold you for a ransom, we need to get the Moor from under their restraint, under their jurisdiction. We have to deal with bail for right now. So where does that fiat come from? That means that you must have some funds put to the side to deal with that, because we ran into this issue plenty of times. Such and such is arrested. We need to put up a bail because we don't, go to a bail bondsman or whatever, because we don't have the $10,000 that they asking for, the Federal Reserve notes. So now you got to go to a bail bondsman, right? Well, where does that fiat come from? Does the temple go into their fund, which most of the time they don't have, because the temple's struggling as it is to keep the doors open? Do your family, do your wife, do your mate, do your brother, do your sister have those type of funds we can go to get their finances? Probably not. So now everybody's looking at each other to borrow money. The prophet addressed that in his literature. So we're not to borrow money from each other. That's why you got to put up these funds on your emergency fund. Nobody should force you to put up money for your own emergency fund. It's through what you put in determines what you get out. If you fail to neglect that issue, like the prophet says, when you need assistance, it's not our obligation to sit there and go into our rent money, our mortgage money, take money away from our, our immediate household funds to put up for you when you didn't want to put in for your own support. That's something else to look at. That's just being real. So
it's also being aware that every time, and keep this in mind, every time there's a charge, because a charge is simply a bond and lien. That there's a bid bond that's created conjoined with the bid bond. Whenever a claim comes before the court, the bid bond should be introduced into the record. It often is not, which is non-disclosure, which is proof again that they're continuing to commit the frauds. However, it is important that that we command that our leadership stop tinkering around with this movement and stop allowing them to tinker with this movement and tell the people the truth about what's going on, because a lot of this stuff can be resolved with not too much headache. And they're only getting away with it, because we continue to allow governors and chiefs to tamper with the prophet's movement via stagnation, which can be proven if you do any research on the FBI's infiltration of the Moorish movement. Go look for yourself. I'm not going to tell you anything else. Go look for yourself. You'll see that. At the same time, understand that there's a bid bond that is constructed every time they make a charge. And so if there's a claim that they've made against any natural being, they've created a bond. And so don't get into subject matter. Command for that administrative magistrate who's not a judge to command for the prosecutor or the accuser to produce the bid bond into the record so you can discharge it. Because that's all that's happening anyway. And so again, the grand chiefs could easily take care of that if they were taking care of the responsibility according to Act 1, but they won't do that because they keep lying to the Moors, telling the Moors that this is no civic organization, that is only a religious organization. At that point, you know that they're COINTELPRO operatives. And if y'all enforce the divine constitution and bylaws of the prophet gave you half the stuff we wouldn't be going through right now. It's not a criticism, just reminding you, because the stuff is already done. It's just that we won't acknowledge it. And then keep on claiming that they love the prophet. They don't love the prophet. However, they're sacrificing their own babies, doing it. While they're playing around this movement, you're sacrificing yourselves and you're sacrificing your children. Now, what we all need to do is start taking this stuff serious and enforcing the Constitution, because that's really, all these questions are geared around that. And the suffering has the most part to do because we haven't enforced it. And what we're simply doing is paying the price for it. That's what we need to recognize. And also recognize if we do a little bit of study, we'll see our folly, and we can start working towards fixing it. All right?
Yes, sir.
Islam. Everybody, a lot of times when we get caught in the into the pressures of life, we get distracted. And every once in a while, we got to go back to ABCs to remind ourselves, because we forget how to spell and how to count. So read the divine constitution and bylaws and get a yellow marker, take each paragraph and break it down, and to remind yourselves why we're all here, why we're doing this Skype program, why we go to the Moorish Science Temple. Also recognize the troubles that we're having around the world economically, politically, etc. And you'll remember remedy is right there in the divine warning by the prophet for the nation, also in the divine plea. Prophet makes a plea to the nations, etc. It's quite evident because a lot of times we start taking things for granted because we repeat these things like parrots and then forget how important it is to manifest them. Also, a reminder to you all, as far as your divine instruction, read your questionary on the front of your Circle 7 Quran, and then go into your chapter 1, creation and fall of man, and then look at the relationship. So your lesson for today is what relationship does the divine prayer for Moorish Americans have to do with chapter 1? And then take the Moorish American prayer, find the paragraph within chapter 1 that it relates to, and then paste it together and then read them together so you can get back to the divine law to also bring remedy to ourselves. Islam.
Islam. Islam was, in closing, based on the last question. You know, I'm always a fan of coming from the record. But the question was, what is the purpose of the Moorish Science Temple of America? And I'm going to take you to 2 excerpts. And like Grand Sheikh Chad says, we want you to go and finish it on your own. So I'm going to come from the Historical Leaders' Message to America. The Moorish Leaders' Historical Message to America. And that is found in your Moorish literature, your Moorish guide, pamphlets, and newspapers that we issue. But I'm going to read in brief an excerpt out of there. It says, the object of our organization is to help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity and teaching those things necessary to make our members better citizens. So I just want to highlight both parts, because uplifting fallen humanity is broad, and that covers everything that we talked about today, every subject, and even subjects that we didn't talk about today covers that. That's broad in this school. Because we have an earthly salvation and we have a divine salvation. And it also says, and to teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens. So back to what Grand Sheikh was just speaking about, how those leaders have told you that this is only a religious organization. Religion is a vehicle for you to bind back to your Creator. For you to realign yourself with yourself. That's the purpose of religion, and that's what religion does for you. But the other aspect of what is done here is to make our members better citizens. And we first teach them that first we must become citizens to become a better citizen. That's what the 14th Amendment did to us. It barred us from citizenship. So to bring us back into the constitutional fold of government is to once again be recognized as a free national being, as a citizen of the United States of America. That's the purpose of the issuing of the nationality card. It says, I do declare that you are a citizen of the United States of America. I am a citizen of the United States of America. Before that moment, we were not considered citizens of the United States of America. So the teaching, the testing, the fundamentals, the activity of citizenship is known as civics. It's very simple. So that's why this is still considered a civic organization, because if you're teaching people their nationality, you're teaching people civics. They're one and the same. You can't teach somebody nationality without teaching them civics. Impossible. So for anyone who says that, it's an oxymoron. The styling of the organization might be styled as religious organization, but the activity is still religious and civics all at the same time. That's science.
It's not
no mind if I'm going in on that. Yes, it is a religious organization from structure and realigning us. If you know the definition of religion or the etymology is to realign. That's why he said that's why he said go back to the state of your ancient forefathers' divine creed and principles. That's religion. That's the law and governmental principles, because you can't exercise law without exercising spirituality. They both go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other.
Let me interject this one before we close in, because this is real quick. That's for those who are coming in order to save them from misdirection. This is a divine and national movement. Now I'm going to give you a key to divine law so you don't have to figure it out, because I see it's constantly needed. I'm going to read the prayer, then I'm going to take you to the paragraph in the chapter 1 so that y'all don't have to jump around. Yes. All right, real quick. By the guiding of his Father God, Allah, the great God of the universe, the prophet brings us this information. So Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is our protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet. Amen. The creation and fall of man. Man is the Lord of all the plane of manifest or protoplast of mineral, of plant, of beast. But he gave up his birthrights just to gratify his lower self. But man will regain his lost estate, his heritage, but he must do it in a conflict that cannot be told in words. Yea, he must suffer trials and tribulations manifold. But let him know that cherubim and seraphim that rule the stations of the sun and the spirit of the mighty Allah, who rule the solar stars, are his protectors and his guide, and they will lead to victory. Man will be fully saved, redeemed, perfected by the things he suffers on the plane of flesh and on the plane of soul. When man has conquered carnal things, his garb of flesh will then have served his purpose well, and it will fall and will be no more. And so you can see in your prayer, Allah is your guide. In your chapter 1, cherubim, seraphim that rule the stations of the sun of the mighty Allah shall be your guide and your protectors, and they will lead to victory. So you must learn divine law so you know the workings of the heavens, i.e. is cosmology, astrology, the Gnostic wisdom, etc., and the philosophies that constitutes religion. Breath or spirituality is the art of breathing, which is supposed to be taught to you in your adult lessons, etc. I'm only giving you that to learn, to tell you, and to demonstrate to you that the Arab leadership have betrayed the prophet. So I just gave to you one of the Arab lessons right there, clear as day. That's your divine lesson for today.
Islam. So in closing, it says, read carefully the doctrines of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It contains our hopes, our aims, rules, and articles of religion. Every member should have a copy. And also not just having a copy, but the leaders, the instructors, have to interpret what they give the membership. And this is where the lack of understanding is coming from, because a lot of Moors have this stuff in their possession, but they lack the interpretation of it. No different than every household has a Bible, but most households do not know how to interpret the Bible. That's the purpose of Sunday school instructions, classes, adult lessons, all meetings, etc. We have to interpret this. We're starting with every member, everybody that we run into communication with outside membership should also have a copy of this. And within it, it does explain the rules, the hopes, the aims, and the articles of religion. This is very important, but once again, don't give it to them without interpretation. Everything we discussed today is in reference to the rules, the aims, the hopes of our organization, of our nation, of our government. And every member should have a copy with instructions behind it. Also, every member should have a nationality card with instructions behind the nationality card. So, once again, we give honor to you all for trying to create a better society in that portion of America that you're in, referred to as Canaanland. We We give honor to you for having courage enough for truth. We also appreciate the acknowledgement that came from you all with the Noble Drew Ali certificate. Once again, we're giving gratitude for that once again. And we trust that we will link up and have another Skype lecture soon. Islam?
Islam.
The door is open. Much love goes out to Islam.
Much love, Islam.
Islam. Right.
Right.
Those lights?
Keep it like that. Right here, right here. That one, yeah.
That one scared me more than this one scared me more than most of them.
Let's just give it up quick, class. So we're having some issues with the mic. So that's why we did all the texting of the questions, etc. Any questions as of right now? With anybody? Everybody's clear? No issues? Yes, sir.
So the temple acts as an embassy as well?
The temple acts as consulate. Because embassies are on foreign soil only. Embassies are on foreign soil only.
Put hard in the door. Put hard.
Right? So it's embassy. Oh yeah, the other thing too was with regard to the property, when property gets taken, right? Writ of replicate. Just so we could have that done. Yeah, and consulate acts as embassy, or consulate regency, and embassy is on foreign soil, so we wouldn't consider ourselves embassy. So, for example, Moorish Science Temple of America, 2533 Eglinton Avenue West, Toronto, Ontario, etc., from House of Representatives, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Harrisburg. Right? So, if we weren't a regency or a consulate, this would have came from the corporate state of Pennsylvania. Right? The state of Pennsylvania. But this came from the House of Representatives, which is the de jure jurisdiction of Pennsylvania. Right? And all they sent was Resolution 75, talking about the use of the names Ellen Bey and the Moors having the power to use these names, and nobody can tell them they can't use these names or whatever, right? The second example, right, to Moorish Science Temple of America again, and this is from the chaplain's office at Colorado Federal Prison, where there's Moors in there who we sent stuff to, and they basically sent a letter back, just, you know, expressing their gratitude for us sending them some stuff. Right. But their reply came from the chaplain's office, like them writing as members of the chaplain's office, not like some inmates. Right, which goes back to that same thing about, you know, it's not that they're looking at this as a, you know, cop out, get with the temple so I can get out of my jail or whatever. Right? They know what they did, and they're looking at, we need the information in here, because the information is not in here. You know what I mean? Not what they got in this situation, so they want to use Moorish nationality to try to, you know, could you send us the stuff that's going to make it go away or whatever. They're not even dealing like that.
which is where it comes into with people who, you know, like the question on the nationality and the nationality card. People come into this with a perspective that, you know, this is some escape off the plantation thing. You know what I mean? All you have to do is just show this card or wear this fez or have this button or have this ring that has this thing, show it to the judge, and then all your stuff will disappear. Like, that's not what this is. And if stuff does happen like that, it's because that individual is so in tune with the information that they exude it, and when people see them coming from way down there, and they already know that we're not even gonna mess with that guy. Right?
So basically you're saying you're still going to have to defend your, stand on your square. You're still going to have to defend yourself.
Ultimately. Right? Ultimately. But the standing on the square comes from having the knowledge. If you have the knowledge, or, you know, like, it's like, once we can, not even once we have the knowledge, once we can weed out the old stuff and then put in the new stuff without, you know, being, you know, getting all personal, emotional about the stuff we have to throw away because it's not serving us no purpose, right? Then we're able to clear up where we're supposed to be going. Because we're only going to go somewhere if it's in our mind to go there. We're not going anywhere if we're not thinking about where we're going. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Has anyone looked into acquiring land here in Ontario?
Well, with acquiring land, it's, where is it that we're acquiring, right? So there's none around here. So it's 2-3 hours north, south, whatever that we gotta go. And just that alone is gonna be, you know, people are gonna, well, I can't, well, it's a 3-hour drive, but, so we're not even gonna entertain that until we get people's mindset where it's supposed to be. So we can entertain that, you know what I mean? We can have classes how to go and do that and whatever like that, but it's gonna be just like here, right? We're gonna go up there, build something, and then nobody can get up there. How are you gonna get up there?
People can barely come to here.
Right? They can't even come here. And they got access here. TTC access, bus,
cab,
ride, cab, whatever. And they're not even come here. So for us to go 3 hours somewhere, it's not even worth considering right now. You know? But it is something that, you know, if just like Grand Chief Nature was saying, you know, there's a secretary that knows the protocol. They didn't know the protocol because somebody said, well, you know, because you're the secretary, you have to, that's what they take up, right? Just like somebody take up the holistic doctor position. They're gonna say, well, you know, instead of Morris going or whatever, just come talk to me and I'll give you your Reiki or whatever it is that you need, and we'll do what we're supposed to do. You know what I mean? Because we have everything in our immediate surroundings to get certain things done, right? It's just that people aren't looking at this as theirs. People are looking at this, oh yeah, Cujo's thing or Amari's thing, so I'm gonna go on, you know, on this day because I have allegiance with, but I'm not gonna go on this day because if I, you know, I don't have allegiance with that guy. But it's just one, it's nationhood. This is not group, club, whatever. Right? This is nationhood. So if you're down with it, then support.
So just take up, if you have the issues, take up the cause, go through it.
That's all it is. You know what I mean? No different than, like, it's not you know, not to promote gender doing certain stuff, right? But it's like, you know, sis comes, every time she comes in, you know, hits the washroom, does her clean up, sweep up, whatever, and there's not nobody giving her orders to do that. You know what I mean?
Can pick that up.
Yo, like, you know, put on the kettle and there's cups back there, tea back there, you know. it's there, you know. But if people don't take it as theirs, then they'll be sitting down, you know, see paper on the ground or whatever. Oh, well, you know, that's nothing to do with me, you know.
I'm trying to teach the 7 years at home to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And see something, pick it up. This is your home.
Right, exactly. You know what I mean? And that's what it comes down to. Seeing it as our stuff. You know, not a secondary thing. You know, because somebody started it and, you know, they were like, if conceptually you realize Moorish Science Temple, mutancy, consulate, birthright, nationality, whatever, then you should have a key and you should be doing something with this space right here. And if that's not the case, then, you know, maybe that person doesn't, you know, they're not really wanting to do that. But it's highly suggested that if you know how to do something, you get down and start, you know what I mean, assisting in that work, that missionary work that we got to do. You know. Another thing too, like when we talk about, you know, acquiring land or let's have a school or things to assist the Moors, those things aren't for Negro, black, colored people. If we have a hospital right now, if we get a check, you guys build a hospital because you're the Moors. There's no Negro, black, colored people coming in there. They better have a nationality card when they come up to go see the doctor, because we don't promote. I'm gonna give you holistic care for you to go out there and go buy burgers tomorrow. Like, it's counterproductive. And they're gonna be mad, oh, well, you guys are racist against your own people. Yeah. You guys say that about the European too. But y'all go support all his stuff. As racist as he is, right? They're still at the ball games and the park, whatever, and Canada Day, and people who watch fireworks and all this stuff, right? They're gonna go support all that stuff, but they're not gonna support what's for them. You know what I mean? And what's theirs. That they think it's not theirs because their perspective is, oh, well, you know, that's nothing to do with me because, you know, I'm not a Moor or whatever. Or I'm not Muslim, so I can't be down with that. If that's their perspective, then hey, can't, you know, Flair said, can't do nothing for you, man. You're on your own. You're on your own. Right?
But it goes back to what you said, if you don't see it as yours, you're not gonna bring support behind something you don't.
Exactly.
It's not for them.
Right. Also too, quick announcement. February 28th, Don Montgomery Center, 2467 Eglinton Avenue East, right outside Kennedy Station. Booker T. Coleman from Hidden Colors 1, 2, and 3. We're going to be doing a lecture. We have tickets for $15. That's next week, or this Friday, coming, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And, you know, as usual, you know, they have the vendors and, you know, you could bring out, apparently there's a children's zone. So they're going to have gift bags, storytelling, arts and crafts, whatever for the children. So that's on Friday, February 28th. Booker T. Coleman lecture, African Liberation Month lecture. And tickets are $15 for that. And on Saturday, March 1st, day after, at the JCA, Jamaican Canadian Association, 995 Arrow Road, on the Queen of Fua lecture. And that's going to be from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. $20 for that event, same thing. You know, they got vendors, we're going to be vending at it as well. For Queen of Fua, I got an hour in the beginning, so 12 to 1. I will be demonstrating on nationality or sovereignty. That's what the organizers wanted to hear about or whatever. So
what day is that?
That's March 1st.
What day is it?
Saturday. Yeah, Saturday. March 1st, Saturday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. So we got tickets. If you know anybody wants to go, if you want to go, let me know. got tickets.
And we have a table there as well, too.
Yeah, we got a table at the both events, Friday event and Saturday event.
Who can I contact about getting the table?
Oh, for vendors, for both of them?
Yeah.
Best place is probably Redemption Services, 416-613-2920. 416-613-2920.
Okay.
And that's for Saturday. Any more questions, comments before we close out?
Do we have any services?
There's some coming. I just ordered some yesterday, so we have some coming. Actually, what we ordered was the pocket size.
Smaller than the ones we have?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You thought that one was too big?
No, it's just that's what we had immediately to copy. So.
You guys know I have to wear glasses, right?
Oh yeah? Even with the other one? Yeah. But we should be having some audios of those stuff coming soon.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Keep me posted with that. You got any announcements to make?
No, I was gonna talk about the letters, but no, I'm good.
Anything to add on with those?
No, I'm good.
All right. Actually, lastly, just quickly, in regards to nationality, Moorish Heritage and History School. This Moorish Heritage and History School flyer. In regard to nationality, when we study nationality and birthrights, one begins to understand that civilizations, laws come from nations. And if you are not part of a nation, you don't come under national or international law. Therefore, you are not recognized by the nations of the earth because the law deals with interchange between natural people across the planet. Always has been that way. And they, nations, have governmental principles that are universal in their character. They're not unique to us necessarily. They are universal in their character. So when you deal with the other nations, there are certain fundamental principles that are universal and they expect from you when they communicate with you. And if you don't display a knowledge of them, then you are in violation of divine law, which is where government law is derived, and are outside of the law or considered what's called an outlaw, of which the natural citizens and governments can do whatever they want to do to you and get away with it. Taj Tarik Bey. So feel free to get the word out, let people know what's up, that they're not Negro black colored, they're Moors, they have a birthright, they have a temple here, they can get all the information that they want with regard to their nationality and birthright. As you've seen, we try to put everything out there. All the lectures that we do, Skypes that we do, everything's up there, accessible to anybody, anytime, everywhere. Omar, forgot your phone. Oh, you come back? Okay. All right. So, if there's nothing else, that's it. We'll just close out and get 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace.
Freedom.
And justice. Allah is my protector. My guide. And my salvation. By night. And by day. Through His holy prophet. Noble Drew Ali. Amin. Islam. Peace, more.